Hey up everybody, welcome back to the Audio Cycling YouTube channel, where today I'm going to be taking a look at the Velogames Volta Communitat Valenciana, the next round in the warm-up series. We've just finished the Volta San Juan. Hopefully you put on lots of sprinters for that race, because that was a pretty easy one to get a lot of points for, but we are looking at a much more difficult race this time round. It's far more difficult to predict what's going to be happening. Looking at the riders, the most expensive one is last year's winner, which is Alexander Vlasov at 24. Although I think that Vlasov is a very good choice for your teams, you also have to consider that he is 24 credits. And is he going to be accumulating roughly a quarter of your team's points in this race? That would, in my eyes, equate to roughly him winning the GC, as well as also probably winning like 2 stages or something like that as well along the way, especially considering that his team isn't like probably going to finish that high up in the team GC as well. Vlasov I think is probably a pretty safe choice, but there might be more efficient riders further down the list. You got Carlos Rodriguez and Thymen Lensman, who, to be honest with you, I don't think they're great value for money, because Vlasov at least has a bit of a punch where he could win some like a reduced sprint between some climbers. However, Rodriguez and Arensman, I don't really see having that capabilities within them, especially like Arensman. You know, he's gone from being kind of 8 to 14 points last year to now being 20. I feel like the Ineos transfer has certainly inflated his price, and I don't think he's worth it, considering that there isn't a time trial either. Rodriguez I could maybe justify just because he did well in this race last year, and I think could certainly finish on the podium alongside Vlasov. But again, 22 credits for a rider who, considering there aren't that many mountaintop finishes, in fact there are no real like mountaintop finishes, they're all just like quite hard days. Rodriguez might not be the greatest choice, considering that some of these might be more reduced sprints between climbers, if you see what I mean. Speaking of which, Bilbao is probably a certainty to go into most teams. He's the one which I'm most certain about having, just because thinking back to like Tour of the Alps last year and it's Zulia Basque Country last year, he was shifting in these sprints, like he was dusting people off. So Bilbao's a really good one, considering that he also has a really strong team. In the Bahrain press release, they seem pretty confident in him, apart from some slight concerns about jet lag and change in temperature, which I think he should be fine with. I think that Bilbao's probably a great one. Landa, I just don't pick Landa unless like it's a Grand Tour, in which case I might consider him. So Landa for a stage race, probably I would just avoid him as much as possible. Caruso is their designated road captain, which basically means that he isn't going to do anything, because that's what road captains do. They just kind of guide people around. So Caruso, probably not a great one. Could still finish as either top 10, but I don't really expect it. I think his ambitions lie in the Giro this year, so probably not a great one. McNulty crashed in Trofeo Calvia, which was like his first race of the season in Mallorca, but he did look pretty good the other day in some other Mallorca challenge race. There are so many I can't remember which one it was, but he has kind of bounced back. I think that UAE will probably have quite a lot of confidence in him, with a lot of cagey finishes possibly. McNulty certainly has the rouleur time trialling capabilities to just solo away from a group, so a pretty decent one, and also fairly fast in the sprint. So McNulty's a good one. I'm pretty high on McNulty for this race. Teo suffers exactly in the same way that the other Ineos guys do. He doesn't really have a sprint, hasn't really done much since that Giro, like however long ago. So Teo, not really too keen on. Then we got Mr. Breakaway extraordinaire himself, Leonard Kemner, who the saviour of my Giro d'Italia team in Velogames last year. Kemner at 14 is an interesting one. Could certainly get him a break, maybe, and win in that sense, and might also do something in GC as well. So a bit of a dark horse. I'm kind of toing and froing with Kemner. He might just be a domestique for Vlasov, in which case he'd be a really crap pick, but on the other hand he could be really good if he's like a co-leader. So I'm kind of toing and froing with Kemner. I'm not quite too sure which way to go with him. Arambarou suffers in the fact that Movistar are just bringing Ivan Garcia Cortina and Gonzalo Serrano to this race as well, so they pretty much just have 3 riders who fulfill the same role. So picking Arambarou, you're kind of hedging your bets and flipping a coin and hoping that you land on the Arambarou side, to be honest with you. 12 points, he could contest like 2 or 3 stages maybe. Realistically it'll be like 2. So I don't really know about Arambarou. I don't think he's going to be that great in this race. Ciccone sometimes goes well in this race. I think he came like top 10 last year, so possibly he might be a good one. Binyam Girmay has been a recent addition, should very much win stage 1 in my eyes, but outside of that, I'm not sure how many sprints he's going to be contesting. Like, maybe stage 5, if it was an absolutely snail-paced stage, then maybe he might contest that one as well, but sprinters I'm probably going to avoid quite heavily in this race and focus a lot on the GC riders. Maida and Mohoric are going to be domestiques. Soler and Ulissi, again, you don't know what UAE are going to do. They could have like 5 different leaders in this race, to be honest with you. Soler, I think, could come top 10 in all reality. Serves a similar function to McNulty in my eyes. Ulissi's a bit of a faster guy, so might be a better choice, especially with Milano probably going to get jettisoned out the back door. Ulissi could certainly pick up a couple of top 10. Charmig, pretty decent GC rider. Rui Costa won the Trofeo Calvia, so clearly in good form, and Intermarché on a bit of a roll at the moment with Koba Kosens and Rui Costa, of course. So I think that Rui Costa is a good one for 10, pretty low risk. And yeah, considering his recent win, I think that's a pretty good value. David de la Cruz, probably stay away from him. Eddie Dunbar could do something, considering that he's now left the Ineos camp, but I don't really know. I don't have that much faith because I haven't seen anything from him since like 2019, so I don't know what to judge of him, and that's just too risky for me. Coy will probably get dropped. Jungle will be a domestique. Micah, I don't know, maybe he could be another leader for UAE, but again, suffers from a lack of a sprint, so probably not a great one. Molmer doesn't really seem to care for GC anymore, so I'm not sure about him. Poles does go good in early season races, especially these Spanish ones. Pretty fast as well. I remember him beating Lutsenko in, might be like Ruta del Sol, like a couple of years ago in a sprint. So Wout Poels is actually pretty decent. I think he's co-leader alongside Peo Bilbao, so pretty underpriced Wout Poels, I would say, that you should probably pick him up. Luis Leon Sanchez looked pretty bad at the Tour Down Under. Will he bounce back? I don't know. It's a Spanish stage race. Luis Leon Sanchez usually pulls out all the stops for these ones. Serrano, again, Movistar guy, very similar to Amberu. Then we've got Fred Wright, who I think Fred Wright's a pretty good one for this race, just because from the Vuelta last year, he was looking incredible. Of course, he didn't get that win, but Bahrain seemed pretty keen in their press release to say that they want to get Fred Wright his first professional victory, and this race could certainly provide a very good opportunity for that. Fred's good enough at climbing where he could even get into a breakaway. He could do quite well in the points classification as well, and he's also on such a strong team that they will be able to support him so much throughout his race. He'll probably pick up a lot of Team GC points as well from that as well. So Fred Wright, I think I'm really looking to put on my team as well. 8-point riders, there aren't too many. Ivan Garcia Cortina, probably the best sprinter that Movistar have, but yeah, he's the cheapest, so a good one there. Probably the best 8-pointer, because then you got guys like Christoph and Milano who will probably get spat out the back, to be honest with you. Then you've also got some semi-GC riders, guys like Lawrence Huiz, Sam Oman, Pedrero, Edward Prades, who I'm not putting on. Like, I'm just not keen enough for that, to be honest with you. I think I'd much rather just save my points for pure GC riders. 6-point riders, there aren't that many, which I am too excited about. Who else? The first one, and probably my favourite one, is Thomas Gloag for Jumbo-Visma. They've talked him up in their press release. Winner of a stage of a Tour de l'Avenir last year. Great British talent. I think that he would be a great choice for all of your teams. Probably the best 6-pointer you could have. Damien Howson has moved away from, Bike Exchange, so he could be a decent one because he has done alright in GC in the past, so perhaps watch out for him. I was going to recommend Madis Michels, but then of course Binyam Girmay has been added, so probably don't pick him. I think I missed Mikel Bizkarra. He could certainly finish like top 20 in GC. Blake Quick, of course, given his name, he should be winning like everything, but I don't have that much faith that he's going to make it over the climb, so possibly avoid him. But if you think it is going to be a sprint, then Blake Quick at 6 points is really low risk, so probably a good one if you think he is going to be sprinting. Have I missed anyone? Moschetti will probably get dropped as well. And then into the 4-pointers, so we're really scraping the barrel now. And there are one or two which I like the look of. The first one would be Michael Hessman, who finished 3rd in GC at the Tour de l'Avenir last year. Very well all-rounded rider. Will he be working for Gloag and Coy? Probably, but you never know. He might be given his own opportunities in the breakaway, for example. August Jensen is a sprinter for Human Powered Health, so again, if you think it's going to be a sprint, he's a very cheap one to be going with. As is Niccolò Paracini. Probably not on lots of people's radars, but he came like top 10 in a sprint in the Tour of Britain last year, and he also made it into that front group in the stage to Helmsley, which is a very attritional stage. So if you think that Muschetti's going to get dropped, then Niccolò Paracini might make it and might be sprinting. So a bit of a very niche one there, but I thought I'd point him out anyway. And then my favourite one is Sanchez for Burgos BH, because he finished second in the Trofeo Andrax the other day behind Kobakosen. So very good finish uphill there. So I think that Sanchez would be the best one. Could certainly finish top 20 in GC. I think could be a realistic aim for him. And he's the best 4-pointer in my eyes by far. Put in the comments down below what you're thinking for this race. In my opinion, I think it's probably best to stack up on a load of GC riders and avoid the sprinters completely. But let me know if you think differently, whether you think the sprinters are worth a look at for this race. And all that is left to say is to keep safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video. Salut!